Having sleep apnea or just having some bad sleep or some bad breathing at night may not always feel like a huge problem. You can just slow down a bit, you can take a nap later, you can drink some coffee. There are a lot of ways to get around fatigue. However, our body is always keeping count. And when those points stack up in the wrong direction, that's when you'll have other diseases start to manifest. Yes, you started out with the disease of sleep apnea, is what it is, and that will lead to many other problems, including blood pressure going up. And as your blood pressure goes up, it will cause a lot of other different problems. It will cause damage to other organs. It may lead to you being on some blood pressure medications, which will have side effects by themselves. And also, ultimately, it's going to increase your risk of having a heart attack or stroke because it may not be suffocating at night that kills you. That is far less likely with sleep apnea. What is a lot more likely is a heart attack taking you out, or you having to get rushed off and having to get heart surgery, and now you're having to fight through that. So that's why I want to talk about how sleep apnea leads to high blood pressure so you can understand more of the mechanisms so you can make better decisions around your health. So we will start to dive in here. Again, I'm Dr. Dylan Peckus. Actually, I'm not sure if I ever introduced myself, but I'll just say again, in case you're a return, a returning viewer or listener. And the reason we want to focus on this, because blood pressure is this very systemic problem. Because it's easy to think about high blood pressure just being, oh, a number on the screen or increased risk of heart attacks, right? It can be this very almost detached problem that we have. But the thing is, hypertension affects every single part of your body. Think of it like this. It is like when your pipes burst in a way, okay? Now, I may have just alienated many people who don't have pipes that may burst, but the idea is you have these tubes in your body, your blood vessels, and when blood pressure goes higher, it is like increasing the pressure on these blood vessels. That is not good. Yes, your blood vessels can tolerate that to a degree, but over time that will cause problems because anytime you're hurting your blood vessels, you are going to change how your body is able to deliver oxygen and nutrients and also to clear out those metabolic byproducts from your cells. And when that happens, that's when your cells, your organs, and you all fall apart. More specifically, let's go from head to toe. High blood pressure, like I said, it's going to increase the pressure on those blood vessels, and then that can lead to actually those leaking, bleeding out into your brain, or even causing some ischemia, which is a lack of blood flow to certain areas. That's going to be a stroke that can either kill you or put you in a wheelchair or unable to talk. It can also lead to depression and anxiety. Because, I mean, think about it. If you're waking up and you're having chest pounding, you're having headaches throughout the day, or you're constantly thinking about your blood pressure, what is that going to do for your psyche? Not good. Also lead to heart disease, because when you have high blood pressure, damage to those blood vessels, it will cause narrowing of those blood vessels, once again, leading to things like a heart attack. Gonna also, I can zoom out here, it's gonna hurt your vision as well. High blood pressure being one of the #1 drivers of gradual vision loss, whether it is something like glaucoma, retinal detachment, many different pathologies. Bottom line being hypertension can lead to losing your eyesight slowly, but also suddenly. Kidney damage is another one. Because again, your kidneys are designed to filter your blood. It is a very delicate filter. So if you're pounding it with higher amounts or higher pressures of blood, your kidneys are going to suffer damage as well. And then also, I mean, bone loss is not super common, but it's there for your intellectual awareness. And then also ED, as we'll talk about as well. So blood pressure, big problem. This is not just a sleep problem, okay? And the reason it's not just like, because again, maybe you have high blood pressure, you're watching this, maybe you don't, because it is important to know what the research says about if you have sleep apnea, because you may be watching this, you have sleep apnea, and Maybe you just learned, or maybe you're worried about what this may lead to. So, in a study where you can just look at the title here, if you need to pause at it, that's great. But what they found, some of the major findings, was that 45% of people with sleep apnea who did not have hypertension before a diagnosis of sleep apnea. 45%, let's just say half of them. Make it easy. About 4 years, took about 4 years to develop hypertension. Not a whole lot of time. And then from there, it's not just run-of-the-mill hypertension. Because in fact, one of the things any good doctor, I'll just say a good doctor, should think about is when someone's coming in with high blood pressure and you're trying to do things, whatever that may be, and it's still sticking, you want to consider sleep apnea. All right, it goes the other way as well, to be thinking both ways about these diseases. So the kind of the nasty thing is something known as resistant hypertension. As the name implies, it's resisting typical medical treatment, medication. And these are the people who they're on, 2 or 3, typically 3 is the max, of blood pressure medications. And I'll just be frank with you, I don't want to sugarcoat it. There's no such thing as taking blood pressure medications and also being relatively healthy. No, hypertension is a disease. Your body's not working properly, and it is one of the biggest risk factors for dying. This is not to be taken lightly. I have people who, I speak to them on the phone, like, oh yeah, so I eat great, I exercise, da 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 da, everything's great, and I'm on 5 medications. So, but other than that, I'm pretty healthy. Sorry, no, you're not. You're being held together by drugs. Because if you didn't have that, you have a heart attack. Are you still healthy? No, you're not. Okay, you need to be able to face these problems to have a real grip on them, not just oh yeah, everything's great. All right. So that's why a lot of people then end up on many different blood pressure medications. We won't get into all of these, but the reason I bring them up is because having high blood pressure, then taking a medication for it, it's not like you're deficient in a B vitamin and then you take B vitamins and then you're all good. No, you have to take something pretty much until you resolve what led to the higher blood pressure. And whenever you add in a pill or a procedure or a device like a CPAP, there is no free lunch in your health ever. You are always paying the price for something. I'm not just talking about medications. You're in Canada, you got healthcare that's just an absolute mockery of bureaucracy. It's just awful. I should save my tangent for later, but there's always a cost to your health. And with these side effects, right? Because it's causing many things worse. Whether it is dizziness that is coming in for you, more fatigue, which this is honestly probably one of the worst ones when you have sleep apnea. Because if you have high blood pressure, then you take medications to bring it down. Well, guess what? Now you're actually losing that blood flow. And now you're probably going a little bit under. And then that can make you tired because now you're not bringing enough oxygen and nutrients to everywhere in your body. But you also have other issues, whether that's cold hands, feet, swollen ankles. Again, nothing is free. Everything, it always costs something. And one of the worst things, especially if you have sleep apnea, because you're tired, sleep has already become this nightmare for yourself and your partner. And then you start bringing on 1, 2, 3 blood pressure medications. Guess where blood is not flowing? So that's why erectile dysfunction and sex life is just something that you used to do. And it really becomes something where these physical illnesses and diseases really start to tear away at who we are and what we can do, right? Because if you can't even sleep in a way that is normal. Maybe you have to use a machine or something, or a mouth guard, or an oral appliance. But you don't even have like the normal human decency of just being able to do that easily. And then, as if your nights of not being able to really even share a bed, or maybe, I mean, not even be able to talk, so you just put a CPAP on or a BiPAP. And guess what? Now, any chance of being able to have some level of intimacy, gone. Because of this chain of sleep apnea, hypertension, medications, side effects. Okay, it's a bigger deal here. Now, continuing our spiel here of, well, over here, this is an extension I talked about earlier of this is you with a heart attack or this is you with a stroke. That's just where it leads. All right. But the mechanism in which this happens, because once you start to understand this, these become targets for you in your health, your plan, etc. What can you do to make this better under your own care, right? So to understand this directionality, when you have obstructive sleep apnea, there's going to be a few things that happen that are problematic. Okay, and I guess we'll do a little bit. I don't have it up here, but I guess I can show you. So in your carotids here, you have something known as carotid bodies. They are connected to the nerves that are going to determine if your blood vessels are going to be big or small. Big or small, okay? If your blood vessels are bigger, just do one circle. If they're bigger like this, your blood pressure is going to be lower. If they get tighter, they vasoconstrict because of what your nervous system is telling it to do, then that will lead to higher blood pressure. Okay, that's what the chemoreception stimulation means, because your carotid bodies, they sense the amount of oxygen, CO2, and that affects your blood pressure. Now you know some great physiology. And then also the waking up and the hypoxia, this will lead to many different problems. We'll just highlight a few. So inflammation is going to be one of them. I would put oxidative stress and inflammation together, honestly. That will lead to your blood pressure going up, makes those blood vessels smaller. Sympathetic nerve activity, that's going to go way up as well. Insulin resistance, that's when your body is not responding to the chemical that allows blood sugar to go into your cells. And the reason that's important is if sugar is floating around higher in your blood vessels, this will also increase your blood pressure. And the other big problem is that nitric oxide, which makes your blood vessels bigger, you have less nitric oxide. So you have less of your body's own natural ability to lower your blood pressure. All goes away. That's how you have hypertension. And just to hammer this home a little bit before we get into what we're doing about this, let me zoom in. Gotta find a good level of zoom here. All right. So obstructive sleep apnea, that's what OSA means. OSA, sleep apnea. Intermittent hypoxia, that's that big swing in oxygen. And that's going to lead to those different problems that we mentioned. Sympathetic nerve activity being one of the biggest ones. Then that will lead to hypertension. And then many other heart problems. Let's walk through some of this. This big word, don't worry about it. It just means clogging of your arteries. Okay, that's what that means. And the reason this happens is when you have faster blood flow, because higher blood pressure, you're going to cause something known as shear damage across those blood vessels. When you have shear damage, which is when you have flow going across a wall, this will cause inflammation, and inflammation becomes the site of where things just get bigger and fluffier. You don't necessarily need high cholesterol levels for this process to happen. In fact, cholesterol is more of an innocent bystander. You need to have some sort of inflammatory or inciting event to a blood vessel wall for the plaques. That's probably what most people know from this. For those plaques to start taking hold in the blood vessel walls and making a more and more narrow blood vessel. That can happen from hypertension, regardless if you eat like negative 200 milligrams of cholesterol a day. All right. Arrhythmias. We talked about this in a previous episode, but when you have these things going on and also improper blood flow, this will alter the electrical activity of your heart. And one of the most common ones, let me see. Oh, I'm so good. I have it over here. Is AFib. This is a different episode. This is why I keep all the things on this big, big virtual whiteboard I have. But it will lead to many different arrhythmias, AFib being one of the primary ones. When you have AFib, that's going to have a 5 times increase in stroke risk. Many other different problems as well. That's how that happens. And then heart failure is another one. And what that means is over time, your heart has to work faster and harder because it has to push against the higher blood pressure. And over time, because when you're not sleeping well, your heart is going to suffer a lot of damage. And eventually, instead of keeping up with the extra stress, it's going to crumble underneath it. And then, when your heart's not pumping, blood backs up, blood pressure continues to be an issue. That's why being able to get rid of this primary driver of all of this, obstructive sleep apnea, is so, so important. Because otherwise, you can be taking blood pressure medications, you can take something to lower your cholesterol levels, like a statin, you can take a anti-arrhythmia drug as well. But like, what are we doing? Like, do you see how a lot of times, like, I'm not saying or advocating against the use of these medications. I'm saying that they really should be viewed as a stopgap measure, because you may not be able to fix your sleep apnea overnight, and you definitely won't be able to. You just won't. But, until you get a good plan in place, yeah, you may have to do that. The problem becomes is when you rely on those things over time, and this continues, this loop, all these cellular issues, these continue to go on underneath. This is why a lot of people, when I'm speaking to them, they're on medication 1, 2, 3, going up on the dosage of all of them, and then on medication 4 and 5. Because this continues to run rampant here. You need to deal with this OSA. Now, there are other ways to help you out with blood pressure. There's a lot of different ways before we get into what we're doing about OSA. And it can be many different things. And obviously, work with your cardiologist or doctor on this, but it doesn't need to be crazy, okay? There are many things, whether it's hand grip exercises, whether it is beetroot juice, whether it is even just like going for a walk or stress reduction. There's going to be many different things. Which one's going to be right for you? Really going to depend on you and your individual needs. That's why I don't want to say everybody should do 5 grams of beetroot juice, blah, 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 blah. Because what may be beneficial for you may be very harmful for someone else when we're talking about blood vessels and the heart. So there's not really a silver bullet, but that's a mindset that we got to break, right? Because the more we're depending on one thing to do it, we're not really holistically approaching our health in a way where it's natural, sustainable, and all of that. So what do we do about OSA? All right. Now, there's a lot of different ways. And these are many of the things I talk about on this channel and beyond. Whether it is improving your breathing mechanics, lowering your stress, establishing a good circadian rhythm, enhancing your environment, prioritizing your nutrition, all of these can help keep the airways open and then lead to better sleep. And then we break this chain of disease where we're not having the hypoxia, we're calming down our nervous system. And that's why a lot of times when we're working with people, what we'll see is blood pressure is going down into a normal range, not too low. And then those clients are able to have that really fun conversation with their doctor where they can say, hey, my blood pressure is a little bit low. What do we think about lowering the dose or coming off of medication? That's the conversation you're able to have when you deal with these upstream issues. Now, the point of this video was to tell you and emphatically give you a very strong yes that sleep apnea can lead to hypertension, explain how that is. All these individual pieces, there's many other videos on all of that. you can always go and watch some of those and learn from those. Those will definitely be helpful, whether it's an episode talking about breathing or lowering stress or nutrition and all of that. That will give you a certain level of success, and that will help you also understand things better, right? And it will allow you to go at it at your own pace. And if you're someone who's okay with that, learning things, and obviously you gotta fill in some details for yourself, right? And apply it and learn from that. If you're someone who wants to do that, that's absolutely fine. I mean, that's what I did at the beginning of my journey. It's what a lot of people are doing when they're starting out. Now, if you're someone who wants us to help you, or you want to be able to have that fastest path where you're 100% confident and have all the support you need to be able to go from worried about your heart, worried about your sleep, and just feeling like this is out of control, and you want to get it under control so you're sleeping better, living better, and having a lot less worry about your health, then what I would want to do is be able to offer you my time for free in one of our free evaluation calls. All right. That's our 45-minute free evaluation one-on-one session. And that's where we're talking about what's going on with you, talking about your goals and how you can best achieve them. And if we can help, walk you through that. If it's a simple fix, I'll let you know. If it's me saying, hey, I think you should do A, B, or C, that's where we go. So you can go grab that at ochnow.com/talk. Once you're there, there will be a form. Looks like this. You will see my face there. In case you got lost in the internet, we're like, where am I? You'll see me again with, I mean, I'm never really crazy about that haircut in that photo, but beggars can't be choosier. Regardless, fill out this form. Really quick, really short. A lot of multiple choice. More multiple choice. It's not like a multiple choice question, like a test. Okay. But nonetheless, fill that out. Lets us know what we're going to focus on. And then you pick your day and your time, and then you're on the path to where we're having that conversation. So once again, that's ochnow.com/talk. Fill out your form, then pick your day and time. We'll speak to you then. So thank you so much for watching, and talk soon.